Ariana, who once stole my fiancé, Jake, only to dump him and then vanished without paying the compensation she owed my parents for the trouble she caused. Now, she stands before us, making snide remarks. Your husband is quite older, isn't he? What does he do for a living? My husband is a doctor. Compared to him, your husband looks poor. He's quite muscular. Does he, by any chance, work on a construction site? Just as I was about to retort, my husband, Michael, stopped me. I do physical work, yes. Speaking of doctors, working here means he's employed at the Blue Island General Hospital? Yes. He's a surgeon. Really? He's one of my subordinates, though? You mean William from the Blue Island General Hospital, right? I believe his specialty is plastic surgery. Huh? Yes? Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm the chief of surgery at the General Hospital. My name's Michael. Shocked by the encounter with Ariana, I burst into tears as soon as we got into the car to go home. Michael then asked me, "You've been thinking about something, haven't you? Tell me, how do you want to deal with her from now on?"
Deal with her? That's impossible, obviously.
Just thinking about it makes me feel suffocated. There was a time when just thinking about Ariana would make me hyperventilate. Yeah, I understand that you really don't want to be near that woman. That's why I have a plan. A plan? Yes, a way to ensure that a woman never appears before you again. My name is Maria. I'm a 32-year-old housewife. Currently, I live a peaceful and enjoyable life with my husband, Michael, who is 12 years older than me, and our 3-year-old son. Michael is extremely busy with his work, which he takes great pride in. I find fulfillment in supporting him at home. It might be rare these days to dedicate oneself to protecting the home for a husband who works outside. That's what some might say. Even my parents have mentioned it. Now, I have a truly happy family. But getting here wasn't without its hardships. That's because I was betrayed by someone I thought was my best friend. Ariana, who I met in college within the same department, was a friend. No, I thought of her as my best friend for 4 years, doing everything together. Coming to a college in the city, I was a bit intimidated, but Ariana reached out to me. She was bright, flashy, and above all, active, which surprised me in many ways, but I followed her nonetheless. For me, who had been modest and serious until high school, she was someone who opened up a new world. And our relationship continued even after we graduated. At that time, we both found jobs in companies in the city. Whenever we had time, we often went out to eat. Eventually, I met someone too. Jake, a salesperson from a manufacturer that did business with the trading company where I worked. As an office worker, I started getting asked out by him, and eventually, we started dating. Honestly, having hardly dated men before, I was over the moon. Everything went smoothly, and after a year of dating, we got engaged when I was 26. I probably got carried away at that time. You haven't been hanging out much lately, have you? Ariana would sometimes say. Well, that's true. I don't have multiple bodies. Naturally, I started spending more of my weekends with Jake. Are you keeping secrets from me? Not really hiding anything. Ariana, for her part, had never introduced me to anyone she was dating. So, I thought friendships and romantic relationships were different. Since we were planning our wedding, it was natural that my time was increasingly taken up by him. I didn't tell Ariana about it, not because I wanted to surprise her. But I won't deny there was also a feeling of embarrassment. Introducing him to Ariana, who could easily chat up and hang out with any guy, felt daunting. Back then, I was afraid of how Jake would appear in Ariana's eyes. Yet, as the wedding approached, I thought it was finally okay to tell her. Hey, there's someone I want you to meet, I said as I introduced Jake to Ariana.
Oh my! Maria, keeping secrets from your best friend? That's so like you.
Ariana patted my back with a beaming smile. But that turned out to be a mistake. When the wedding reservation and preparations were nearly finalized, Jake suddenly came to my parents' house and said,
I'm sorry. I can't marry you.
When I asked why, he said, Ariana is pregnant. I couldn't comprehend what he was saying at first. After that, it was a mess. Was Ariana really pregnant? At that point, it didn't matter anymore. He called off the engagement when the wedding was just around the corner.
I'm so sorry.
In my stunned silence, my dad, half furious, berated and even hit him while he was apologizing. It could have gotten worse if my mom hadn't stopped him. The wedding was cancelled. While I was incapable of doing anything, my outraged parents demanded he pay the full cancellation fee and compensation for what he did to their only daughter. They also demanded compensation from Ariana. He admitted his fault and seemed to pay what he owed, apologizing sincerely. I say seemed because my memory of that time isn't very clear. I was in shock, likely in denial about reality. So, I found out later that Ariana had skipped town without apologizing or paying any compensation. It turns out she wasn't actually pregnant, according to a letter she left behind. The lie and her fleeing devastated me again. What was she thinking? Ariana's parents were furious as well. When this rumor spread among our college friends, I heard another shocking thing. I didn't say anything because you didn't notice, but Ariana used to go after every guy you liked, one after another. This was news to me.
Why would she do that?
I don't know. Even though Ariana was popular on her own, every time someone showed interest in you, she ended up making them date her instead. Maybe she was jealous when guys approached you instead of her?
But we were best friends.
Were you, though? I was shocked. Back then, it seemed more like you were following Ariana around, and everyone thought she saw you that way too. That hit me hard. Not just realizing Ariana's true thoughts, but also that I had been completely oblivious to it, and my lack of judgment when it came to men. Adding to the shock, the stares at work labeled me as the woman who got jilted right before her wedding, and I finally broke down. I quit my job and spent some time recuperating at my parents' house. Then, settled down, I got a new job at 28 and started matchmaking on my parents' advice, not trusting my own judgment anymore. I felt more secure with being introduced by worried relatives. Among them, I met Michael, a man 12 years my senior. He was too busy with work to even think about women, and by the time he realized, he was already this age. At 40, his surroundings got worried and arranged a matchmaking for him. I decided to marry him because he was upfront about possibly neglecting family due to his work, which I saw as honesty. Considering my past failure, we only informed close family and friends about our wedding. The following year, I got pregnant and planned to take a break from work, but then Michael got headhunted by another company in a different city. I felt bad for leaving my relatively new job, but everyone was kind and saw me off. And so, our new life as three began in a new place.
What? Could it be Maria?
One day, by sheer coincidence, Ariana appeared right in front of me. That day, the three of us had gone to the shopping mall. Our target for the day was the home improvement tools. Since moving here, we've been gradually working on our new home's interior ourselves. DIY has always been a hobby of mine. Michael's new job is a higher position than before, and it comes with less irregular hours. So, now he sometimes helps me with shopping for heavy items. Well, right now, he's carrying our son, Sean, on his shoulders, but what are the odds in this mall?
Ariana? Long time no see. Wow, you got married. Yeah, but Ariana, you're in this town?
Yep. Moved here for my husband's job. Wow, so this is your current husband? Ariana looked at us over. Then to Michael, she snidely said, quite older, isn't he? Michael casually responded, yeah, got a bit too caught up in work. Maria's friend, right? Yes, Ariana. And you're all about work, huh? What do you do?
Ariana, isn't that a bit abrupt?
Oh, Maria, are you still mad about it?
It's not that.
My husband's a doctor. Compared to him, your husband looks poor. He's got quite the muscles, though. Does he, by any chance, work in construction? Judging by appearances alone.
That way of speaking.
But before I could argue back, Michael stopped me. I do. Speaking of doctors, does he work at Blue Island General Hospital? Yes. He's a surgeon. Really? He's one of my subordinates, though? Huh? You mean William from Blue Island General Hospital, right? Yeah. Oh, right. Sorry for the late introduction. I'm the chief of surgery at the hospital, Michael.
Michael, as in the one who was eagerly headhunted last year?
What a coincidence. Michael smiled gently.
Yes.
Suddenly, Ariana's attitude changed. Thinking back, this had happened before. I just hadn't noticed.
Oh, my apologies. I didn't realize it because of your casual attire.
No worries, casual clothes are just that. I clenched the hem of Michael's work clothes he was wearing at the time. What's wrong, Maria?
Let's head back.
Are you sure? She's an old friend, right?
Yeah. There's so much I want to talk about. Let's go.
Okay then. Sorry, maybe some other time.
Sure, love to.
Ariana's cheerful voice irked me. What's wrong? You look pale, and your pulse is racing. While saying this, we went back to the car, and as Michael put Sean in his child seat, he checked my temperature and pulse.
No more, I never want to see Ariana again. I don't want to.
He gently patted my trembling shoulder. If you don't want to see her, that's fine, but can you tell me why later? I just nodded silently. That night, after putting Sean to bed, I told Michael everything that had happened. I see, so that's it. I knew you had been cheated on by your fiancé right before the wedding, but I didn't know she was the woman. You knew? I figured something sad had happened. I nodded silently, several times.
Yes. It's not just that. It's always been.
Tears of frustration won't stop falling from my eyes. It's always like this. I realize something after it happens. I've always hated Ariana. If that's the case, she's really toxic. And it seems like she has an unhealthy obsession with you.
With me?
Yeah. Isn't it obvious? Luring away anyone who gets close to you only to discard them. What does she think of these men to her, huh?
That's true, but...
Even with your former fiancé, it turns out he's not married now, if he was supposed to be with William. That's indeed the case. And about William, or rather. Michael suddenly looked thoughtful. What's wrong? Ariana's husband is. I was just thinking. Tell me, Maria, how do you want to deal with her going forward?
Deal with her? That's impossible, obviously.
Just thinking about it makes me feel suffocated. There was a time when just thinking about Ariana would make me hyperventilate. It's okay, it's okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I understand you really don't want to be near that woman. That's why I have a plan. A plan? Yes, a way to ensure that a woman never appears before you again. And then, Michael smiled gently again. Ah, that's right, this man, though he seems calm, takes action when it's necessary. 2 weeks later. In the evening while preparing dinner and waiting for Michael to come home, Mom, Grandpa and Grandma. Suddenly, Sean pointed out the window. Right after that, the doorbell rang. Indeed. It was my parents. I hurried to welcome them in. Their home is several states away. It takes hours by car. What's going on? Yeah, Michael called us. He said it was urgent, so we're here to watch the house.
House sitting?
Haven't you heard? I quickly sent a message to Michael. Immediately, I received a reply, so your parents have arrived. Come here now. And bring your earphones, along with the URL of a certain restaurant. I don't know what's going on, but it looks like I have to go out now. Unusual for Michael. I was in the middle of cooking dinner. That's okay, we'll finish up. Let's make it our dinner. Wondering what was going on, I started to get ready to leave. By the way, Maria, we saw that girl's parents at the rest area on the way here. My mom mentioned, as if remembering something. That girl? That girl. Just thinking about it irks me, that.
Ariana?
I don't even want to say her name.
But what could it be about?
I hadn't told my parents that Ariana was living in this area. Given how down I was at that time, my mom's worry was tremendous. And her tirade against Ariana's parents was fierce. Honestly, I never thought my mom could get so angry. Because of that past, I thought mentioning Ariana over the phone would complicate things.
I'll be going then.
I got into the car and headed to the restaurant Michael had specified. It was a cozy, nice-looking restaurant. According to the restaurant's website in the URL, the dinner seemed moderately priced. I wondered if Michael was waiting here for me. As I got out of the car, noticing a few other vehicles parked as the evening gradually darkened, another message popped up on my phone.
Put on your earphones and come inside.
Curious, I entered the restaurant where a waiter guided me to a two-person table. A man sat alone at the next table over. A drink in front of him, elbows on the table, hands covering his mouth. Exuding an unapproachable aura with his sunglasses and all-black attire. I'm waiting for someone. I began to tell the waiter to bring water and suggested the menu. He subtly gestured towards a seat across the room. There was Michael, seated opposite a woman, with several dishes that seemed like an early dinner laid out on the table. I nodded to the waiter and ordered a light meal that wouldn't seem out of place on the table. At that moment, my phone vibrated inside my bag. It was a message from Michael. Hurriedly, I attached the earphones to my phone and put them in my ears. Then I heard it. No, William is a good doctor. He specializes in plastic surgery.
But you're even more remarkable, isn't that right?
The woman's voice I heard, her back to me, was Ariana's. Startled, I switched my phone to record mode. Michael was intentionally letting me listen.
Since then, I've asked William a bit about you.
Oh, is that so?
I was amazed. After all, you've handled so many difficult surgeries nationally, haven't you? Thousands over 10 years, I heard?
Well, it's my job.
Amazing.
Ariana's tone had completely changed from our last encounter. Still, you've done quite the research.
Actually, I heard it from William, when I mentioned running into you the other day.
Then, the man in black slightly lifted his hips before sitting back down. Glancing over, I noticed he too was wearing earphones. It must have been a surprise, suddenly reuniting with an old friend.
Yes, but meeting you was the highlight.
Shouldn't an old friend be more important?
No, I felt bad for speaking so dismissively of you before. I wanted to apologize.
Ariana continued in a tone that sounded almost like she was biting her tongue. I hadn't known. She never spoke like this when she was with me during our student days. So, this was how she acted around men. And thus, my former fiancé too.
But are you satisfied with your marriage to Maria?
I am, but why do you ask?
Isn't it boring with Maria?
Why would you say that? Because she was ditched by her fiancé before, you know. Maria is a good wife, more than I deserve. But she's plain, isn't she? What are you trying to say?
Actually, since our conversation the other day, I've fallen for your calm demeanor and presence. I think I could be much more for you than Maria.
The man in black's hands trembled visibly on the table. So, this was his play. Oh, for me? What do you mean by that?
Because you're invited to parties and such, right? With a plain wife like Maria, wouldn't you be embarrassed?
In such places, you need someone more radiant, like me. So you think you wouldn't embarrass me?
Yes.
So, you're suggesting you'd leave William for me?
No, that sounds terrible when you put it like that.
Then what do you mean? I'm a bit slow on the uptake, you see.
Come on. Do you really make a woman say it? I told you, I fell for you.
William is a promising man. Not an old man like me.
Age doesn't matter. Actually, I'm disappointed in him.
That's when it happened. The man in black started to stand up. I hurriedly approached him. A man dressed all in black, probably this must be William. I silently stared at his face and showed him my earphones and the connected smartphone. William sat down again, as if realizing something. I needed to hear something more definitive. Disappointment. What does that mean? You mean coming home late every day? If that's the case, it's because of work. Unfortunately, patients don't wait. No, it's not about him coming home late or anything like that. Then what is it? It's his salary. Given his age and career, it's normal. Young professionals are like that. But he's a doctor, right? So? I mean, if your partner is a doctor, you'd expect an income over $200,000, right? I believe he's making around $140,000 to $150,000 now. When we got married, it was less, and I was disappointed compared to what I had expected. Moreover, he goes to conferences and stuff, but he never takes me with him. So what if I were in that situation? So? It's not about the money. Haven't I told you several times? It was love at first sight. What do you mean? I want you to date me. At that moment, William finally stood up. I tried to stop him, but it was probably too late. He stood behind Ariana, who was sitting across the table. I hurried after him. Then, Michael smiled faintly.
Ariana, is what you just said true?
Behind an oblivious Ariana, William spoke in a low voice. Ariana literally jumped in surprise when she turned around. What? You? And Maria? What are you two doing? Don't tell me you're cheating? See, when you have something to hide, you end up saying things like that. Michael said calmly to Ariana. I heard your conversation. So you've always thought of me like that, huh? What do you mean, like that? Here you are. I then confronted Ariana with the recording of our conversation.
What's this?
Michael took out 2 smartphones from his bag. One was connected to me, and the other must have been connected to William. Do you even know what it means to become a fully fledged doctor?
What's this all of a sudden?
We spend years in college, then years before becoming regular doctors. I had just become a regular doctor when I met you.
What?
Ariana started counting on her fingers suddenly. So, I was just a newbie.
But, you said you were a doctor at the mixer.
I am a doctor. And at that time, I was dragged there by a high school buddy. I thought it was too early to marry, but you were the one who aggressively pursued me. Plus, I was earning more than my peers in corporate jobs. It was you who assumed I made more. Indeed. Doctors are well paid, but not until they're fully established. And whether they own a practice, where they work, their employment status, and age can all affect their income. And it's true that doctors have fewer chances to marry. It was a rare outing because I'm still a busy newbie, which is why I initially declined.
Yes, that's true.
It might sound like an excuse, but I wanted to work in rural healthcare. I needed to build up my experience in the field to be as versatile as possible. Yet, whenever I mentioned this, you would hysterically scream.
But I don't want to go to the countryside.
Even though I said it pays better, you didn't want to hear it. And it's not just that. You said you'd be a housewife to support me, but you don't do any housework.
What?
I was surprised at that.
But housework isn't just for women nowadays.
That's if both are working. I chimed in. In today's world, if you decide to be a stay-at-home wife, you really need to manage all household duties perfectly, so your husband doesn't have to worry about anything.
Maria. Even you're saying that. But, are you managing all that, along with your social obligations?
You seem to be misunderstanding something. Michael sighed deeply. You clearly have the wrong image of a doctor's wife. Indeed. That's more like the image of a housewife from the past. The glamorous life you imagine doesn't exist. I'm always watching the clock for his uncertain return time, managing childcare, and ensuring he has the stamina to handle surgeries lasting 10+ hours by planning nutritious meals. Oh, I see. William, have you been thinking I'm inattentive because I frequently seem to overlook things? Maybe you haven't been getting enough sleep at home? Yes. Well, I used to cook and do household chores on my own, but But even so, my sleep hours have been significantly reduced because he keeps bothering me whenever he's home, making it hard to find time to study.
Study?
Of course. It's only natural to constantly acquire new knowledge for our patients.
So, Maria, you're studying too? At this age?
Of course. I'd be in trouble if I couldn't respond to his sudden calls. If it were a marriage between doctors, things like household chores and secretarial tasks would probably be outsourced. But I'm just an ordinary person, so I do what I can to support Michael, for his sake, the hospitals, and the patients. And I want to show our son a model of diligent work.
How arrogant.
Say what you will. I'm not the person I used to be. That's right. Watching Ariana directly trying to charm Michael stirred a different kind of anger in me, not the fear I had felt before. Ariana, unable to counter my arguments, remained silent, possibly out of frustration. Then, William interjected firmly. Ariana, I've decided to leave you. We're getting a divorce.
What? What are you talking about?
Being with you, I can't become the doctor I aim to be. And let me ask again, are you willing to follow me to rural areas?
No, I can't go to such places.
I see. But I want to go. That's why I can no longer be swayed by you. Ariana's face froze.
You can't be serious about leaving me.
Suddenly, Ariana turned to me.
It's all because I met you again, Maria. Why did you have to come here? If only we hadn't met.
So, you're saying you wouldn't have thought about taking my husband if we hadn't met? You haven't changed at all since college.
What? How dare you?
Watching her, I began to feel pity for Ariana rather than fear. Why have you always taken and then discarded men who were interested in me or my boyfriends?
Because I hated you, the plain good girl.
But Ariana, hating me doesn't justify the effort you've put in. Like with Jake, you ended up running away from home. That's right. Ariana's actions were strange. If she hated me, she could have ignored me or bullied me directly. Yet, she took men away from me and discarded them, making it visible to our friends. And she even took my fiancé and demanded alimony. Ariana, could it be that you actually liked me a lot?
What?
She opened her eyes wide in disbelief. Was it my imagination, or did her neck veins bulge visibly when she got angry? It's said that veins bulge when one is angry. Apart from Jake, I hardly noticed. And the men who switched to you because of Ariana's tricks were not worth much anyway. In the end, it worked out in my favor, didn't it?
No, that's not true.
Even if I had married Jake, he might have cheated on me. So, Ariana, were you actually saving me from unhappiness?
What?
Ariana's gaze wandered. Didn't you realize?
That can't be.
I'm sorry, but I'll forget about you from now on.
No, that's a lie.
As she said that, Ariana suddenly collapsed in front of us, clutching her chest.
Doctor!
William looked at Michael with a serious expression.
Call an ambulance, quick! Right away!
Soon after explaining the situation to the ambulance, Michael and William went with it. Indeed, Michael specializes in cardiac surgery. He probably won't be coming home today. As I sighed deeply, the waiter brought our order. Thank you. Sorry for the commotion. No worries, this place was booked exclusively for you by Michael today. Wow. He had arranged even that. Truly, when he decides to do something, he does it right, I thought with a smile. Later at the hospital, there was another commotion. According to Michael's plan, Ariana's parents were supposed to come storming in. Shockingly, Ariana had only reported her marriage but had not introduced William to her parents. Perhaps the timing had prevented travel out of state. But that time had passed. Michael, through William, had contacted Ariana's parents for two reasons. One was the potential for further issues with men. The other was because he had noticed something off about Ariana's health. He had been suspicious of the way the veins on the right side of her neck bulged since their first meeting. As it turned out, Ariana did have a heart condition. She needed some hospital stay, but her life was not in danger due to the timely intervention. Her parents, having rushed over, decided to take Ariana home. Between the divorce, the sudden discovery of her illness, and being called out by me, Ariana was quite shaken.
I don't want to go back home.
Ariana resisted her parents. But you need to pay back the alimony we fronted, her father said angrily, and weakened by her condition, Ariana couldn't respond. The divorce led to mediation, where William's misuse of funds was also brought up, further increasing the amount her parents had to cover. Dragged back home, Ariana was now forced to work within their sight to repay them, a tough situation given her free-spirited nature. Caring for her health while being watched by her parents, and chased by serious work every day, for the free-spirited Ariana, that must be an unbearable ordeal. Look, a message from William. It's the weekend. Michael took a half day off work, so the three of us went to a park with a wide grassy area for the first time in a while. Despite the chilly days continuing, Sean, dressed warmly, was running around on the grass, laughing. Is he all right? As we sat on a bench with a view of Sean, we took turns looking at an email. Check out this photo. The photo showed William smiling and participating in a local festival. A stark contrast to his previously worried expression. That's great. You won't have to be troubled by the past anymore. That's absolutely true. Half of the fear I had was self-generated. And facing Ariana seemed to have lifted some kind of curse.
Daddy!
Sean waved at us enthusiastically. All right, let's catch him, said Michael as he started running. And I watched the two of them, guarding this moment. Now and in the future too.